100%. So, Ian, how are you feeling after all that?
Very disappointed, obviously, the way it's panned out, but I think you have to take you take the draw and you move on. There's not much you can do about it when you get a decision like that. From me, you know, in my opinion. But I think in the end, second half, again, you look to the bench. There's not too much other than Erdegaard coming on, Martinelli. We just needed a little bit more firepower off the bench, maybe.
Yeah, there is one big talking point in that game, and it was the way that Brighton came back into the contest via the penalty spot, and that's because of this coming together between William Saliba and João Pedro. Glenn.
Well, I obviously disagree with Ian because I think it is a penalty. I think it's effectively a challenge. Saliba is just slightly late. Effectively, if it's on the floor and you get first to the ball and you make contact with the player, it's a penalty, and therefore, for me, that is a clear and obvious penalty.
You know what? I watched Kulusevski and Anthony Gordon today, and I'm thinking they've not given that as a pen, but they can give this as a pen. Where's the consistency? It's pathetic. Kulusevski's nearly broken his nose. He's just gone to try and head the ball here. It's like I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know what, because I saw that one. It's not a pen, but this is. Come on, man! It's ridiculous. We've got the worst in Europe in respect of the decisions they make. They're the worst I've seen. These lot.
Well, let's try and get some clarity, shall we? Former Premier League referee Dermot Gallagher joins us now from the Match Centre. Always good to see you, Dermot.
Thank you.
So, let's have a look at that. What is your reading of that coming together collision, headbutt, whatever way you want to put it?
I'm in Glenn's camp, actually, Manish. You know, I think he's unlucky. He goes to head the ball, there's no doubt about it. But if you see, the ball gets moved on there, he goes to try and head the ball, but he catches him on the head. This is a great angle. See, there's the ball moved away, then he comes in, catches him. I think once you do that, it's a foul for me. You know, if that happens in a halfway circle, the referee's going to give a foul. So I think a penalty. Tough call for the referee. You know, he took his time, he run it through his head, and I don't mind that. But I think he's got it right.
Yeah, and I suppose the reason we're debating this is because we very rarely see something like that happen, don't we?
We were actually discussing it during the match, and I can't ever remember that happening before. It's such an unusual incident. But you look at it, and it's very, very difficult when you see it in a cold light of day like that to say it's not a foul.
What about Kulusevski?
Yeah, so let's have a look then what happened earlier in the day in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Dejan Kulusevski here with Anthony Gordon, not with the head, but with the shoulder. Oh. Nothing was given here.
I think this is a penalty as well, Manish. I think it's a penalty anyhow, because I think of how he catches him. If you watch there, his shoulders up, he catches him in the face, he catches him in the nose. I mean, you see here, he's nowhere near the ball.
How can they watch this? How can they watch that, Derm, and not give that as a pen? But they can watch this one with Saliba and give it as a pen. If they gave that as a pen, then I would take this one, no problem.
Yeah.
But
See, that's why I'm sat here in front of the camera talking to you, isn't it? Because if they were both given as penalties, you go, fair enough. If they were both given not as penalties, say fair enough. But when you compare them, without doubt, in my opinion, the Kulusevski is the worst of the two. I think that should be a penalty. The second one's a referee's on-field call, so that's why that's given.
Yeah, the contact is there and clear to see, isn't it?
I feel Kulusevski makes his body a little bit bigger just at the end there to make sure he doesn't get past. And for me, they're both stonewall penalties.
I think the clue here as well, Glenn, is the ball. If you watch the ball, where the ball is in relation to the challenge, he's so late. For me, it's got to be a penalty.
Yeah. Another flashpoint in the game at the Amex, Dermot, was when the penalty was being prepared to be taken. Jorginho, amongst the whole group of players on the edge of the 18-yard box. You will see it, I suppose, in the second angle. You can just see a kick out there with his right leg on the Brighton player. Nothing was spotted or given at the time. Is there a punishment to be warranted here?
Well, I think you've got to go through the nuts and bolts of this. Firstly, priority for the officials on the field is the penalty. You know, is the goalkeeper moving, all that. Nobody really looks outside the penalty area for that. It gets picked up by the VAR, and then he's hamstrung to a certain extent, because you look at that and you think it's petulant. I don't think it's a red card, and I don't think anybody would expect a red card for that. So therefore, all or nothing. He doesn't think it's a red card. He can't recommend a yellow card. He can't recommend a public admonishment, so his hands are tied, so effectively they've got away. But
so
what
VAR could only interfere if it was a straight red?
Absolutely.
But Derm, in the rules of the game, if you attempt to use or use excessive force against an opponent, and even if you don't make contact, then that's deemed to be a red card. Is that not the case there?
It's got to be deemed violent or an act of violence or brutality, Glenn. And hand on heart, I would never say that was a violent kick out. I think it's petulant. I think it's very, very unwise. But I didn't expect him to see a red card.
So, suppose he does that. He can't see where Veltman is. Suppose he catches him on his knee there. Then what?
Well, I think that
because he can't see where he is. It's not like he's like we saw the elbow the other day where he's just missed.
Pedro, as it happened.
Yeah. So with that, he can't see him. So you're saying that if you know it's petulant. If he catches his knee, then it's violent. He can't see if he's going to catch the knee or not.
Yeah, but you can only go on what happens, Righty. You know, you look at that.
It's the intention, though.
Yeah, but I still go back. That's petulant. I don't think it's violent, and I think we've got to be very careful. We don't get wrapped up in what happened a week ago.
But Derm, what about Pedro's one? That looks like it's petulant.
We can't get wrapped up in it. We all know, Righty, that a week ago, if a red card had come out there, nobody would be arguing with it. It was, that was a sheer act of...
This afternoon, Tim Howard, Robbie Mustoe, I'm Rebecca Lowe. Tim, where did that go wrong today for Arsenal?
Well, it was a little bit deflating. We talked at halftime that I didn't think Brighton was going to come out and be as bad in the second half. That's like a mantra of a lot of teams where you go in the dressing room and you just know they're going to give you more, particularly at home. It was a worry for me because I thought Arsenal were on top of the game in the first half and he didn't get that second goal. And mentioned again at halftime, you didn't want to be in a game where you had to hang on to the lead, and that's kind of what they did.
Rob?
I just didn't think they played very well today. They've been really good in the last few games. You know, I looked at the starting lineup and I know that there's been players out, been missing. But then today you add that Odegaard didn't start, Martinelli didn't start, on top of Havertz not being there, Saka not being there. I mean, it's, the team's a little weaker each time it seems, and just didn't create enough today. Not enough creativity. It wasn't a great day for Trossard. What did Gabriel Jesus do? What did the team create? Like, very little. That one bit of quality that we broke down with the way that the goal they scored, Nwaneri's movement and the finish. Other than that, Arsenal created very little, which is the concern. All given, of course, the backdrop of how Liverpool are playing. That's not a horrific result away at Brighton 1-1. It's a draw. They didn't lose the game. But given how the others, the Reds, are doing, it seems a big gap now. How
much are they hanging on now in the title race for you?
Just barely. I think I have this right. Fulham, Everton, and Brighton. They've drawn in recent times. I know on the odd occasion, that's a good draw. I don't think you can draw those games. You've got to be winning those games to win the title. Look, I think Liverpool are somewhat cruising, particularly with the games in hand. Now we have to wait and see if Liverpool drop points or they lose a game. Okay, then Arsenal creep back in it. But Arsenal can't live this season just hanging on.
It doesn't feel, Tim, like Arsenal can, the way that they're playing, they can go on a huge run of winning games. They need Liverpool to mess up big time, and we'll have to wait and see if that happens. Yeah.
Well, the take on Manchester United tomorrow, as I said. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Half-time at the Amex, 1-0 to the Arsenal. And are they good value for that lead?
Yeah, I think they've started the game exactly how you want to start the game. If you're away from home, you want to keep it as controlled as you can, as tight as you can. But then, if you can get that early goal, then that forces Brighton to do something. And I think once they got the early goal, they have sat back. They've made sure there's no space behind people like Thomas Partey for Adingra to run into. They've been very solid in that 4-4-2 kind of low block, and it's worked out perfectly.
From a Brighton perspective, what have you made of it, Glenn?
A little bit passive, a little bit lacklustre. Probably shown Arsenal too much respect. But I think, like Wright mentions there, the way they've set up, I think they've shown Brighton respect. They've sat in, they've made it difficult. They know that's what Brighton struggle with at the Amex. So they've done that, and then they've worked on the counter-attack.
Latest academy product and star in the making in Nwaneri has scored the goal that separates the two sides. When we look at this, Ian, to be honest, you could see what Arsenal were trying to do in many respects. Was this, I suppose, what they deserved on possession alone?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, what we're seeing in this situation, obviously, it's brilliant for him. to score the goal, coming in such a big game. But what we're seeing is the movement, and Declan Rice is causing so many problems. You can see Declan Rice going in, the centre-half's like so deep. So once Ethan now turns back into the field, there's no one to pick him up. Declan's taken the centre-half out of play. And once this ball goes into Marino, you can see the amount of space he's got there. And that's, I think, the massive problem that they've got is Declan Rice. They don't know what to do with him. He's playing a lot higher up. And once this situation is, what I love about Nwaneri is he's not looking at anyone here. He's not looking to pass, he's looking to score. And I'm delighted for him.
So I was going to say, first player to score more than one Premier League goal for Arsenal before his 18th birthday. And that celebration says it all, doesn't it?
Well, honestly, you can't imagine what it must feel like for him as an 18-year-old. You're talking about him, you're talking about Miles Lewis-Skelly, two players who are coming into an Arsenal side at a time where Arsenal need players to come in and perform.
Multiple Premier League goals, look at that, before turning 18. There's a whole host of stars involved in that list. From a Brighton point of view, what was your reading of that?
I think it's a really soft goal to concede. Really poor defend, especially from the whole of Brighton's left-hand side. I'm just going to pause here and we can see Igor Julio and Estepinian, Brighton's left back and left centre-back, get sucked right out. And then the willingness to get back. Igor Julio chases the ball. Estepinian doesn't go with his runner. And then all of a sudden, Arsenal have created this and they leave Van Hecke, who's had to come over. What does he do? He either goes to Nwaneri and he rolls it into Rice's path, or he holds his ground, which he does, and then I think we've got to pick up on the goalkeeping because it's a really, really soft goal. Yeah.
Declan Rice, I suppose, is revelling in that position that we knew when he first came across from West Ham, right?
Yeah, well, we know that Declan has been turned into a holding midfielder, but his natural game is to break forward and be forward.
Well, he's 41 on that list. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you can see how high he's playing. He's actually one of the first. He's starting to press some of the times because they know that if you could get Declan high up the pitch, winning the ball there, he can create and he can score.
Yeah, and that's with Jorginho, Marino next to him.
Exactly, but Jorginho more staying back and controlling the game. This is what Arsenal are trying to do now. They're going to just suck them on now and see if they can just pick them off.
Chances have been few and far between, or clear-cut chances, that is, from Brighton, but Simon Adingra had an opportunity here, Glenn.
Yeah, best opportunity they have from Brighton, and it's actually really good pressing, a high press from Baliba wins it back, and from this point, it's really good play. Wonderful ball there, just back across, and unfortunately Simon Adingra can't quite sort his feet out as that comes flat across him. He's trying to sort of let it roll across him, and he just slashes at it, and unfortunately those opportunities don't come very often against Arsenal. But need much more second half, Brighton do. More life, more energy.
A spark.
Yes, more energy.
Yeah. Well, that's the big question, and no doubt the message that will be sent from Fabian Hürzeler to his Brighton players. They need a spark of some kind.
Arsenal lead by 1-0 at half-time, and it came from the teenager Ethan Nwaneri, Steve.
Well, we picked it up, didn't we, before the game, and a lot of Arsenal's threat has come down their right-hand side, Brighton's left-hand side, and they just work it really well, Jay. They get bodies over there, didn't they? A good run from Marino there, and then it's about getting bodies in behind that we said before. Is there going to be a winning runner to do that, get behind Brighton's back line?
And a good finish as well.
It's a great finish, isn't it? He's got one thought in his mind. You can see when he's going to go in there. He wants to get in the box. I think he has a quick glance maybe at one point. But you like this
well, we highlighted him really because it's a good piece of play. Just it's intelligent. Then Declan Rice ends up in the wide position, plays a little one round the corner. Then you get that third man runner, Nwaneri. And I was thinking to myself, is he going to maybe play this one to Declan Rice? Van Hecke, we feel, probably could come out a little bit quicker just to engage to stop the shot. Doesn't see, he's got one thing on his mind. He thinks, I'm going to get my shot away, get that goal. I mean, Declan was certainly in a better position, but when you have a player that like him, he's full of confidence, and it was, Sakares, the way he just cuts in on that left foot, confidence to have the shot. Keeper should do better, but he will not care one bit, and it's a really important goal. I mentioned before the game about have they got enough guile in that midfield, but with the way that Marino and Declan Rice link up, they were certainly right there, that's for sure.
And look at this, multiple goals before turning 18. He's only the 6th player in Premier League history and the first for Arsenal. He's got 2 Premier League goals for them now in only his 2nd start.
Superb. He's been their go-to man. Saka at the moment, he's obviously going to be injured. Can he be the one that could do the charge?
So important, isn't it, that goal today?
Of course it is,
you bring a player in. And Makeda as well. What's happened to him? He was a superstar, wasn't he?
He's still playing in Greece, I think.
Still in Greece? What, West End or actually in Greece?
Kaniki.
OK.
Arsenal travel down south to face Brighton in the Premier League this evening, with the Gunners looking to keep the pressure on Liverpool at the top of the table. Mikel Arteta's side started the new year in convincing fashion as they came back from a goal down to beat Brentford 3-1 on New Year's Day, and players and fans alike will believe they're still firmly in the title race despite Liverpool's 6-point advantage and game in hand. Meanwhile, Brighton are sitting in 10th despite some good results over the first half of the season, and the Seagulls will hope to start the new year in encouraging fashion, having grabbed a promising 1-1 draw at the Emirates in the reverse fixture. Arsenal phenom Ethan Nwaneri has written a new page of Gunners history thanks to his opening goal in the Gunners Premier League clash with Brighton and Hove Albion. After putting in a strong shift on his maiden Premier League start in Wednesday's 3-1 win over Brentford, Nwaneri held his place in the first starting 11 for the trip to the Amex on Saturday evening. The 17-year-old is filling in for fellow Hale End graduate Bukayo Saka, who will be absent for the next couple of months with a hamstring injury, and he did not take long to make his mark on the south coast. After being played through on the right-hand side by Mikel Merino, getting in behind Pavis Estupinan, Nwaneri surged forward into acres of open space and eventually found himself about 10 yards from goal. Jan-Paul van Heck came across to close down the teenager, who nevertheless managed to open up his body and curl a low effort into the bottom corner off the underside of Bart Verbruggen's leg. In doing so, the 2007-born attacker became the first-ever Arsenal player to score more than one Premier League goal before turning 18, having opened his account in the competition against Nottingham Forest in late November. As well as being the first to achieve that feat for Arsenal, the Englishman is just the sixth to do so overall after Wayne Rooney 7, Michael Owen 5, Danny Cadamartieri 3, James Milner 3, and Federico Machida 2. Nwaneri was only a late substitute in that affair, having initially struggled to force his way into the first 11 under Mikel Arteta, who was understandably being extremely cautious with his development. In Arsenal's first game without Saka, their 1-0 win over Ipswich Town, Arteta gave Gabriel Martinelli the nod on the right wing, as was the case in the 5-1 thrashing of Crystal Palace where Saka picked up his injury. However, the Spaniard finally gave in to pleas from fans to start Nwaneri at the Gletsch Community Stadium against Brentford, the same ground where he became the Premier League's youngest ever player in September 2022. Nwaneri caught the eye in that London derby success before his historic goal at the Amex Stadium, and the 17-year-old will no doubt continue to play a key role in the Arsenal 11 for as long as Saka is unavailable. Arsenal follow Saturday's match with the first leg of their EFL Cup semi-final at home to Newcastle United on Tuesday, where Nwaneri will be in contention to start for a third game in a row. However, Kai Havertz's availability for the clash with the Magpies is in doubt, as the German was again absent from the matchday squad to face Brighton due to illness. Brighton Ethan Nwaneri, still just 17 years old, scored a beauty for Arsenal early at Brighton on Saturday. Without putting too much pressure on Nwaneri, it turns out Arsenal have a very capable deputy for Bukayo Saka, with the England star out injured for the next few months. Nwaneri has started each of Arsenal's last 2 games, and Mikel Arteta has said time and time again he believes the teenager is a special talent. Arteta did take Nwaneri off at half-time at Brighton, and that was largely because he was booked for time wasting as he delayed taking a corner. It's smart management from Arteta to protect the youngster in a game where Brighton were angry at decisions and clearly looking to target him. After great play from Rice and Merino in midfield, Merino dinked the ball over the top and Nwaneri curled home under Bart Verbruggen. The youngster had been sharp early in the game and his finish was calm, and he had a lot of time to think about it as he was completely unmarked as he ran towards goal. Composure in a big moment like this is why Arsenal fans are serious when they say Nwaneri is the next big thing to come out of their academy. It's still early days, but the signs are very promising for Ethan Nwaneri and Arsenal. Interesting selection from Mikel Arteta with neither Martin Odegaard or Gabriel Martinelli starting. Both are on the bench, but Jorginho and Leandro Trossard come into the 11 in their places. That could be due to the illness that hit the group against Brentford, which included some starters, or due to the first leg of their Carabao Cup semi-final on Tuesday. Whether Declan Rice or Mikel Merino plays in that right-sided midfield role will be one to look out for. Marino started on that side against Bournemouth, but Rice has previously done well there in a more box-to-box role for England. Ethan Nwaneri keeping his place on the right flank should do well for his confidence, and Brighton potentially giving Arsenal more space to attack than Brentford did could work well. The eye-catching element there is Martin Odegaard on the bench for Arsenal but still no Havertz, with Adam Webster fit enough to return to the bench for Brighton but no Lewis Dunk. As for the visitors, here is Mikel Arteta's Arsenal starting 11 as they bid for success at Brighton: Raya, Partey, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Rice, Jorginho, Marino, Nwaneri, Jesus, Trossard. That means Partey steps in for Timber, Rice returns but no place for captain Martin Odegaard in the starting 11. Injury-hit Brighton will have to do without forward Danny Welbeck again because of his ankle injury. Welbeck is the club's leading scorer so far this season with 6 Premier League goals, despite missing the last 4 games. Evan Ferguson is also sidelined with a foot injury, but Adam Webster thigh and Jack Hinchelwood could both return. Pervis Estupiñán will also be assessed ahead of the game following illness, but this one is likely to come too soon for new signing Diego Gomez. Arsenal phenom Ethan Nwaneri has written a new page of Gunners' history thanks to his opening goal in the Gunners' Premier League clash with Brighton and Hove Albion. After putting in a strong shift on his maiden Premier League start in Wednesday's 3-1 win over Brentford, Nwaneri held his place in the first starting 11 for the trip to the Amex on Saturday evening. The 17-year-old is filling in for fellow Hale End graduate Bukayo Saka, who will be absent for the next couple of months with a hamstring injury, and he did not take long to make his mark on the south coast. After being played through on the right-hand side by Mikel Merino, getting in behind Pervis Estupiñán, Nwaneri surged forward into acres of open space and eventually found himself about 10 yards from goal. Jan-Paul van Hecke came across to close down the teenager, who nevertheless managed to open up his body and curl a low effort into the bottom corner off the underside of Bart Verbruggen's leg. In doing so, the 2007-born attacker became the first-ever Arsenal player to score more than 1 Premier League goal before turning 18, having opened his account in the competition against Nottingham Forest in late November. As well as being the first to achieve that feat for Arsenal, the Englishman is just the 6th to do so overall after Wayne Rooney 7, Michael Owen 5, Danny Cadamartieri 3, James Milner 3 and Federico Machida 2. Nwaneri was only a late substitute in that affair, having initially struggled to force his way into the first 11 under Mikel Arteta, who was understandably being extremely cautious with his development. In Arsenal's first game without Saka, their 1-0 win over Ipswich Town, Arteta gave Gabriel Martinelli the nod on the right wing, as was the case in the 5-1 thrashing of Crystal Palace where Saka picked up his injury. However, the Spaniard finally gave in to pleas from fans to start Nwaneri at the Gletsch Community Stadium against Brentford, the same ground where he became the Premier League's youngest ever player in September 2022. Nwaneri caught the eye in that London derby success before his historic goal at the Amex Stadium, and the 17-year-old will no doubt continue to play a key role in the Arsenal 11 for as long as Saka is unavailable. Arsenal follow Saturday's match with the first leg of their EFL Cup semi-final at home to Newcastle United on Tuesday, where Nwaneri will be in contention to start for a 3rd game in a row. However, Kai Havertz's availability for the clash with the Magpies is in doubt, as the German was again absent from the matchday squad to face Brighton due to illness. Brighton Ethan Nwaneri, still just 17 years old, scored a beauty for Arsenal early at Brighton on Saturday. Without putting too much pressure on Nwaneri, it turns out Arsenal have a very capable deputy for Bukayo Saka, with the England star out injured for the next few months. Nwaneri has started each of Arsenal's last 2 games, and Mikel Arteta has said time and time again he believes the teenager is a special talent. Arteta did take Nwaneri off at half-time at Brighton, and that was largely because he was booked for time wasting as he delayed taking a corner. It's smart management from Arteta to protect the youngster in a game where Brighton were angry at decisions and clearly looking to target him. After great play from Rice and Marino in midfield, Marino dinked the ball over the top and Nwaneri curled home under Bart Verbruggen. The youngster had been sharp early in the game and his finish was calm, and he had a lot of time to think about it as he was completely unmarked as he ran towards goal. Composure in a big moment like this is why Arsenal fans are serious when they say Nwaneri is the next big thing to come out of their academy. It's still early days, but the signs are very promising for Ethan Nwaneri and Arsenal.